Call the meeting in order of Ohio Valley Healthcare District. Rosalie, will you roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Director Nunes.
Here.
Director Cox. Yes. Director Pimentel.
Here.
Director Gallagher.
Here.
Chair Friel.
Here. So I have an announcement to make regarding amended attendance. Dr. Gallagher has requested permission to attend remotely per Assembly Bill 2449, which states that a board member may participate remotely for a just cause should he or she have a contagious disease that will keep him or her from attending. I would like to make a motion that Dr. Gallagher be able to attend remotely.
I'll second that motion.
Director Nunes.
Aye.
Director Cox. Yes. Director Pimentel.
Yes.
Chair Friel.
Yes.
And Director Gallagher.
Yes.
And as a reminder, these meetings are publicly broadcast by way of Zoom. Even in the case that the public is not physically present, please consider that participation may be virtual and that the meeting is recorded and posted for public viewing. We had a closed session earlier in the evening. There's nothing to report. Any agenda modification considerations from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda of public comment period. Rosalie, is there anybody online wanting to address the board?
I do not. Do you want me to read the list of agenda items for this specific?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. We have the minute approval from October 25th. We have the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District CEO appointment. We have the 2024 Pajaro Valley Healthcare District bond measure item. South County triage group update, and again, the co-tenancy agreement between the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District and the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation.
So is there any public comment on any of these agenda items? I know a lot of people spoke at the last session regarding the bond issue. There's an opportunity here once again for those who would like to speak. Didn't get a chance or?
Issue for items not.
I have a question.
Take that.
Thank you. Just for clarification, is this public comment for items not on the agenda?
Right.
Will the public be given an opportunity to speak regarding the bond measure when it is discussed? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so there's no comments, nobody online. Okay, so we'll move on to comments from the board. We already did that consent calendar. Need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make that motion to approve both items.
I'll second.
Director Nunes.
Aye.
Director Cox. Yes. Director Pimentel.
Yes.
Director Gallagher.
Yes.
Chair Friel.
Yes.
Quick comment, Chair.
Yes.
Congratulations. Seriously, congratulations. Happy to have you on board, and sounds like you're already busy in your first month, and so thank you so much for your work.
Thank you again. It's an honor. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Chair-
so under the.
Chair Friel, if I could just interrupt really quickly for the record, could Director Gallagher please disclose whether or not there are any individuals 18 years or older? Sorry to be a pest.
There are no individuals of any age in the room,
Okay, thank you.
except for me.
Okay, so we move on to the discussion of Pajaro Valley Healthcare District bond measure. Stephen, you want to see this?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this, and I would love for Marcus, for Chair Director Pimentel to take it forward. Thank you.
Make some comments?
Yes, please, thank you. I'm still a little overwhelmed with the outreach and community support we got today. That's completely unexpected. I had to say a couple things. I'm going to say I have to now. You know, for this first year, sometimes it's felt really like just a few of us bearing a lot of burden, but we know that's not true. We know that there's a hospital with 400 plus staff and providers doing amazing work. We know that's true, but sometimes it feels very, especially in these meetings, very lonely. So I'm feeling this really overwhelmed with the support from everybody who came in today, and I didn't plan on saying any of that. I didn't plan on also saying this, I'm an introvert, yet an elected official. Born and raised here, my parents immigrated here, Portuguese descent, so I'm saying Portuguese because it's not Italian, but Italians can be emotional, so I'm giving myself some room to be emotional here. I wouldn't be here twice were it not for this hospital. My parents had a choice they made when I was really, really tiny, came out really, really early. And many people said, it's not worth it. And they made a choice and this hospital supported it. And I'm here today. Later on, they had another choice to face and they made a choice and bore a lot of costs. And I'm here today because of the hospital. I didn't plan on saying any of that. This is more than a volunteer effort for me. This is appreciation and gratitude and payback to this community and this hospital. Because there are thousands of stories like mine, or even greater than mine. And I don't know why I'm saying that, but I'm just overwhelmed today and right now. It's the, I want to celebrate, and I'm not ready to celebrate, but I want to celebrate our year one success. We solved 80% of a deficit in year one, no layoffs. We solved 80% of a deficit and we filled positions. We solved 80% of a deficit and our executive team are choosing to stay here, or have chosen to come here. And our staff are choosing to come here and stay here. We've solved 80% of our deficit and we're adding a cath lab. We've created a brand new community engaged, community-led effort on a new strategic plan, mission, vision, values. We solved 80% of our deficit and we brought on board a new Da Vinci surgical robot. We're doing amazing stuff in year one that we haven't taken a moment to celebrate. We solved an 80% deficit and developed a long-term financial plan to sustainability, long-term sustainability when, as we heard earlier today, 11 hospitals have closed. And rural hospitals across the country are closed. We're gonna be that case story that says, this is how you do it. And we owe a debt of gratitude to Senator Laird, Speaker Rivas, the entire state, our local officials. I'm naming them, Carlos Palacios, folks who stepped up and said, we will not let this hospital close when the corporations were bleeding it dry. And we owe a responsibility to all those, to all of our donors who raised together $65 million. We owe a responsibility to our staff, who despite 20 years of incompetent bureaucratic administration, corporate leaders take money away from this community, who've chosen to stay here and fight. So I just feel a debt obligation that we must do right by all those and figure out the most prudent, fiscally sound way to keep this hospital here serving our community. I didn't plan on saying any of that. What I did want to say is I'm grateful for the work we've done over the last 6 months when we formed the ad hoc and we started looking at how might we get to a path of sustainability. That's really about local control, keeping this amazing 20-year hospital. I know the number, it's just not there right now. Keeping this here for another 100+ years. And this model will do it. We do need some help. We need the community to consider an investment to keep this hospital here under local control, locally controlling the land, locally controlling the building, locally controlling not having a rent payment that goes up because a real estate investment trust decides they need to make higher rate of return, and they do that by raising their rent. So this does a lot of things in addition to bringing this hospital, this community, the hospital it deserves from a facility standpoint, from a service standpoint, from the best equipment, for making this not just a sustainable hospital, but the best freaking hospital you'll ever run into. So I'm excited about the work we're doing. As a finance guy, I'm proud at one point in time I reduced the tax. I'm done, man. I reduced the tax. And here I am getting behind, we need to do this tax, and our community needs to help us keep this hospital here. And it will be used entirely under local control with an oversight committee of the people of this community, making sure that everything is spent, and legally, we can only spend it on capital. So this is gonna go right back into our facility. It's gonna strengthen our assets, it's gonna strengthen our roof, it's gonna improve our plumbing, like basic things, but then it's gonna expand and bring really modern, amazing equipment that then brings providers and services and more here. It gives us the ability to think out our back lawn area and what might we build there? Might we invest in this building? I mean, we've got some brilliant, amazing ideas, and we just need the community's help. That was a lot longer than I thought I'd say. So I'll stop now and just say thank you to everybody who's got us at this moment, and I know there's a lot of work to do, and I know our decision is really about starting the work.
Well said. So, there is a public comment period yet. I know a lot of people spoke earlier, but if there's anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this further, now would be the time. Is there anybody online?
No one online.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Robin Cosby. I have worked at Watsonville Community Hospital for over 22 years. The first 18, I did multiple different roles in materials management, and since July 2019, I've been the Facilities and Environmental Care Coordinator. I am always eager to proclaim my pride in being a part of the Watsonville Hospital family and to share my excitement for this new era of local ownership. I'm speaking to you tonight in support of approving the resolution to move forward with a bond measure for the March ballot. With all the accomplishments made within the formation of the district and the purchase of the hospital, there is still much to be done to bring the hospital into the future and make us the hospital of choice for our community. Being able to accomplish the items that would be supported by the bond measure, such as reacquiring the land and making building and updating facility infrastructure, would put us more firmly on the path towards financial success and sustainability, would increase opportunities to provide more varied patient care in an updated facility, and would likely lead to financial opportunities and the breathing room to accomplish additional goals and projects that have been out of reach during the years of out-of-state and for-profit ownership. There is a lot of potential for greatness right now, but unfortunately, this final boost to get there needs funding that we don't quite have yet. Having this bond measure on the ballot and passing won't solve everything, but it will be a very big part of the solution. Marcus, you were doing the math, it was 1895. I think I've heard as the first date of the hospital. So Watsonville Hospital's been here over 125 years, and we need to do whatever we can to make sure that we are still a part of the community for 125 more. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else in the audience?
Good evening again. My name is Becky Steinbrenner. I support local control of this facility as well. But in terms of presenting a bond measure to the public, I think that people need more information. I think that people are not even aware that this district exists. And as I stated earlier, even the Santa Cruz County LAFCO commissioners had questions about the boundary, especially in the southern area where it seems that it could overlap with the hospital boundary district of Salinas. So these are issues that are important, and I think more information is always best. I would like to see some references to how much is this land purchase going to be? Can you lock into a purchase agreement now? What would be the terms of a purchase agreement? I would like to know if this bond measure passes, would there be exemptions for seniors? Would there be exemptions for veterans? Those are very important pieces of information when you're coming to the people to ask for money. Of course, we want to support the hospital, but we have our own personal budgets that are really difficult right now and are not expected to get better. So please be mindful of that and as transparent as possible and give the people as much information as you can. Because we all want to support the hospital, but we have our budgets and we have to be fiscally responsible for everyone, especially those on fixed income. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Gavin, I was here earlier, I'm the Director of Pharmacy Respiratory. I've been here continuously now for 29 years. I've been the Director of Pharmacy for 18. But I'm actually speaking more as a citizen like Marcus, right? I'm third generation here, born and raised. When I spoke earlier, in one of our meetings, I had identified all of the people that I knew on the board and how I had ties to each one of you. I was born at the old hospital. I had my son here. I lost my husband here. I had surgery here. So I've actually personally hit every single department in the facility. My personal opinion is the facility may not survive without the bond. I'm saying this as Erica. I don't like to pay more taxes. I will. This is one of the things that I will vote for. It's critical and vital that the facility stay here. One of the stories from way back in the day that my mother used to tell me is my uncle Ben Umeta was a local pharmacist, and with the old hospital when they were trying to raise money, he went from Japanese American Buddhist home to Japanese American Buddhist home and asked for money. So from a personal standpoint, I was extremely proud this time around that the Buddhist Church and the Japanese American Citizens League also as a group gave money. But that also showed that the groups, it's important, this facility is important for us to be here. So yes, I've been here forever and my mother was here forever and all of those things, but as a citizen and as a person in this district, we need to stay here and I will support that. So thank you guys for doing all of the information. And to your point, yes, we need to provide more education for the bond from somebody working in the hospital. I know some of that information, but it's critically important that we let people know. We let them know that we don't own the land. So, you know, when I was talking with Butch earlier, he says, they think that, you know, you raise $65 million and you own the land. Bye.
We do have some hands raised online. We have Carmen Herrera Manser.
Good evening. My name is Carmen Herrera Mancier, and I'm a resident of Watsonville and a donor to the hospital. I'm very proud of being one of the members of the community that supported, you know, the acquisition of the hospital, and I'm very thankful for everybody that is in this room that made that possible. And I'm just joining tonight to ask you know, for the support of you know, passing the resolution to authorize the issuance of the bond for the hospital. It is a much needed you know, resource for all of our community, and especially those that are the most vulnerable. I personally have received the services from the hospital. My family has too in times of emergency. It's an incredible resource and we cannot let that go. Many people work very, very hard to make this happen. And I think we should just keep going, and obviously with a lot of information and everything, but we need to you know, maintain the hospital in the community and for the community. So please, you know, approve this resolution to support the board, the bond issuance. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you, Carmen. The others online?
Nope.
Nobody else in the audience? I'm going to close the public comment period on this matter. And John, you have a presentation for us?
Sure, yes.
Come on up.
Good evening, members of the board, district administration, members of the audience. My name is John Isom, and we're the district's financial advisor. And I just want to take a few minutes just to kind of provide a recap and then an explanation and an overview of what you have in front of you. So By way of recap, our job as financial advisors is to help municipalities secure money, right? To look at different options, what are the tools that are available to districts, and ultimately come back with a recommendation to say, hey, we think in our experience, having done this for 25 years, that this is the best tool. And in fact, a general obligation bond, in our opinion, is the best tool. It's the most common tool. Many say it's the fairest tool. It's an ad valorem tax. What does that mean? That means you're taxed on the assessed value of your property. Unlike a sales tax or a parcel tax where everybody pays the same, regardless of income or value. And those are often considered regressive, right? Hey, everyone pays the same. You have $1 million or you have $10, you're paying the same tax on the bread or whatever you're buying. If you have a parcel tax, you have $1 million piece of property or a 10,000 piece of dirt, you're paying the same. But a general obligation bond is so common because it is, in many people's opinions, the fairest approach. So we identified that, we brought that to you. We said, hey, we think this is the key tool for you to address your needs, but there's a process. We need to undertake a process. You don't just throw something in front of the voters and say, hey, you think it's a great idea, I hope you vote for it. On the contrary, there's an exhaustive process that you authorized us to help to take on, which involved exploring the feasibility of a local bond measure. So what did we do when we explored? Number one, we did a voter survey, a scientific voter survey of your registered voters. The goal of which was to say, do you like these particular projects? Do you like the tax rates? Do you even like the district? And ultimately, whether or not statistically you have the support in the community to put something on the ballot. Okay. What we received back from that survey was yes, there was support to put something on the ballot in front of voters. Almost 3 out of 4 voters said, if that were on the ballot today, I'd vote for it. There was also support to do a tax rate of $2 a month per 100,000 of assessed value. So if you have a house that's assessed at 100,000, you're paying $2 a month. If you have a house that's assessed at 500,000, you're paying $10 a month. Again, assessed value, much lower than market value, right? It's the value that the county assessor places on the property. So we got some good, valuable information back from that first stage of exploration, but that wasn't it. We can't stop there. We can't just say, well, the everyday voter likes the idea. We need to talk to stakeholders. And over the last couple of months, there's been significant outreach. You've heard people here, some impromptu, some otherwise, but elected officials, community leaders, civic groups, employees, right? The list goes on to say, hey, what do you think of this idea? Is this the right program? Is this the right tax? Is this the right time? And at the conclusion of all this process, right, this exploration between the quantitative survey and call it the qualitative conversations with, people around town that may be stakeholders or sway public opinion. The culmination of that is what's before you tonight, the resolution, okay? That resolution represents our recommendation to the district to say, this is what we believe that the community wants. Not this is what we should throw on and again, try to convince them of it. We've already talked to them, so we feel like this is what they want. You're not asking for $29 or $35 or $70. You're doing $24 or $2 a month. We're not asking to do all these different projects either. We're saying, hey, these are the projects that we think are important. And you voters came back and said, we agree, this is important to us. So what you have in front of you is a resolution that's a summary of that exercise. $116 million is what the general obligation bond authorization would be. As mentioned, the tax rate would be $2 per $100,000 of assessed value per month, or $24 a year. The election itself would obviously be held in March of this 2024 upcoming. And by approving that resolution, you're also providing some specifics on projects. You're providing the declaration that you intend to have a citizens oversight committee. As Marcus had mentioned earlier, community residents are going to be part of this process. They're going to oversee the expenditure of these dollars. And then, of course, you're also directing the county to consolidate this election and have it on your behalf. So if you approve this resolution and submit this to the county registrar of voters, you'll have an election, again, with those details. One comment, just to be clear here, is that you get an authorization from voters, and when you sell bonds and how much you sell will be directed by you, the board and the district. You're not gonna get all $116 million up front, and frankly, you couldn't spend all $116 million in a 3 to 4 year period, which is what the IRS wants you to do. Why does the IRS want you to spend the money? Because they're not getting any interest from the people that buy those bonds. Again, when I said the reason that general obligation bonds are so common, that's one of the reasons. It's the cheapest form of borrowing out there. You hear 8% mortgage, 7% mortgage. We're selling bonds at 4%, 4.5%, and interest rates have been going down. The reason the interest rates are so low is because no one is paying any taxes on that. So the IRS says, hey, I'm gonna do you this favor, but put that money to work, get it spent, put it to work, and that way we'll give you that tax exempt benefit for the investors. So that's what you have in front of you. I'm thoroughly impressed. I've done this for 25 years, and I echo what Marcus said. I mean, so impressed to see the level of commitment that you guys have in the community to support it. A lot of times I do these and then just great. It's just me. I say my comments, but no one else says anything else. And some of those bonds, most of those bonds still pass. But wow, what tremendous support that you guys have this evening. So I'm happy to take any questions if you have any on again, the process or specifically the resolution before you tonight.
Questions for John?
I don't have questions. I just wanted to affirm that the resolution does a lot of things, including listing all the projects that we're now committing to doing, and that's the project we'll be allocating the funds for. The biggest is, this is a great question, thank you for that. We do have a $40 million existing purchase option to buy the land and the buildings at $40 million. That exists now, and we have a couple of years to still execute it. So that is time sensitive. We have to close that in or around a year from now. So by September of next year, we've got to be there. So without this funding, that option will probably vanish, and we may not, depending, but REITs typically don't like selling their investments. They like holding them. So we have a unique opportunity, and that was a really nice to have that came out of the bankruptcy. So I appreciate everybody's work in making that happen. So that's 40 million. We have a plan to double our emergency room and modernize our emergency room. That's another huge investment that we must do. It's one of the most utilized emergency rooms in the county, the hospital, so it's pretty easy to say that. We want to expand services better. More modern equipment will bring providers here. Providers here brings, our community doesn't have to travel. So better x-rays, better MRIs, better CT scans, more improved equipment, equipment that we own and not just lease and advantages. So we have a really long list, so I encourage everybody to go through the resolution. The rest is systems, our roofing, our HVAC, our elevators this year, our plumbing. I mean, there's just a lot of deferred maintenance that in the last 20 years, the for-profits weren't investing in that. And unfortunately, that price tag is coming due. So it's work we must do. But more importantly, we have the ability to expand services and do that by expanding our space, not just in the ER, but other opportunities. So it's just really exciting. The nature of how this is designed, the control, the limits of how we can use it, and that we must use it for those items. And once we do, we're good and we're set. So I just appreciate you and your team's work and your guidance and your flexibility and all the options you've been bringing us. So thank you for getting us here. Thanks.
Comments, questions for John?
There's no other questions. I just want to expand a little bit on what John said about the public outreach and some of the stakeholder meetings that we had with folks out in the community, both elected officials, people in nonprofits, business owners. And it's a message, the message that we got is one that's kind of echoing throughout everyone's comments here today, is that this is not a want, it's a need. And I think that when you look at, Becky brought up a great point of everybody has a budget, everyone's budgets are extremely tight because of inflation and various costs today. But when you look at your budget and you look at what you can afford to give, what community you can afford to spend, how you can afford to invest your dollars. It's always, you always prioritize the need over the wants. And there are, and I'm sure there will be, several wants coming up and several asks of other organizations. But when you look at what does this community need in order to continue to move forward, it's a hospital that is running at full capacity and that is continuing to expand and provide services to its residents. So I always like to measure it that way, and that word, well, we need this hospital, well, we need healthcare, we need access. And I think that, you know, without this bond measure, there's still avenues, but the margin for error is much smaller than this bond measure is approved by voters. And just one other thing, comment that really struck me, he said that the people, he called them the lowest denominators, I think is a comment, the lowest people in our community. And really, I want to kind of reframe that, that those are the folks, those are our people, you know. Those are the people who come to Watsonville Community Hospital, who continue to have care here at Watsonville Community Hospital, who don't go, you know, up north to other hospitals for their care, who invest, continue to choose Watsonville Community Hospital over those other healthcare providers, and continue to do everything that they can to help this Watsonville Community Hospital continue to be here for this community and really for the entire Central Coast Health System. And so there does need to be more education. There does need to be more outreach. And like Marcus said, there are plans to continue to do that and continue to show why the need is there. Continue to show why this is needed, continue to show why we even started this whole process 6 months ago, which is crazy to think about 6 months. 6 months ago, thinking about, you know, possibly putting this forward March, November, whenever it is, and we landed on this date. We feel really confident about going forward and asking our neighbors, I mean, for me, my mom and my dad, and everyone like this to support this because they've shown us and they've told us that they will support this. So John, thank you for all the work that you've done in a short amount of time, just your guidance to this whole thing. Marcus, I've learned so much from you throughout this entire process. Matco, everything that you've done as well too. And just everyone on the team that's helped this, you know, really small but mighty ad hoc committee get to this point. Just thank you for all your work on this, and thanks, John, for your presentation.
Good comments, questions, John? So according to my notes, we don't need a motion.
Chair Farrell, you have someone in the audience.
Yes, Becky?
Sorry, I just have one question. Why did it go from 105 million to 116 million?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the 105 million was based off of last year's assessed value. Again, collectively, all the property value that makes up a district is assigned assessed values based on tax rate areas. That was based on 22-23 data. In 23-24, we anticipate the district collectively to grow, and that growth allowed for additional dollars.
And that's maintaining the same rate of 24.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's just a function of a bigger tax base. The same $24 generates additional proceeds.
So my notes say that we don't have to have a motion, but we do need a resolution back.
Yes,
Resolution is in front of everybody,
yes, need to vote on the resolution.
the resolution, so.
I will happily move approval of recommendation of the resolution.
Is there a resolution number yet, roughly?
Yeah, it will be assigned after this meeting tonight, so I have an idea of what it will be.
I'll second that. But Joe, if you have any comments that you want to.
No comments. Thank you.
Ready for me to,
Yes, please vote for.
Director Nunez,
Yes.
Director Cox? Yes. Director Pimenta?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
And Chair Farrell?
Yes. Okay, thank you, everybody, for the support and diligence. Work has just begun.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Item number 4.
So item number 4 is the South County Triage Group update, and that's going to be presented by Jim Ponce.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. June Ponce, Executive Director of Watsonville Community Hospital Foundation. I am here to present to colleagues and partners and friends of the hospital, Jasmine Nahida, who is the CEO of PVHCD, and Erica Padilla Chavez, CEO of Second Harvest Food Bank, also my sister, older sister. And I just want to clarify that. And we're going to talk, they're going to present information about the South County Triage, which is a Pajaro Valley collaborative impact initiative that really has done so much work within our community, particularly South County, and lots of great initiatives. I hope you find it just empowering on how we as a hospital are connected to this greater group of collaborative group. With that said, Jasmine and Erica.
Thanks for having us. Erika, I'm going to go ahead and kind of split up the presentation. I'll do the first half, she'll do the second half. But I just have to say that I'm just always so impressed with Watsonville and the collaborative nature and the amazing work that we do here as a community like no other. So I just want to share that. So we're going to go through our agenda, who we are, why we convened, our work together, our goals of PV leaders, our COTCHI grant, our governance structure, and immediate next steps. So the South County Triage Group really started during COVID in March of 2020. And the purpose was really to bring together community members to triage the impacts that were resulting from COVID. Erika was definitely one of the main pioneers in that effort when she was leading PVHCD prior to me coming. Today, that South County Triage Group continues to meet every other Friday. We have a broad base of community members that are inclusive of CBOs, we have city staff, we have county staff, we have businesses, we have state representatives. There's anywhere from about 25 to 75 members that join every other week. Typically, we've been sharing COVID updates around the fires and the flooding and all the crises that we've all been responding to over the last couple of years. And people also have the opportunity to come and share initiatives. We would love to have you all come and talk about the bond measure at one of our meetings. And we are able to share the work that we're doing in the community and the valuable assets that we bring. Out of that group came our PV Leaders Group. And this group meets every Wednesday morning, and it's pretty much all of the CEOs and executive directors here of nonprofit organizations. We have our city managers, staff join, and we also have PVUSD leadership along with health services agencies. It's pretty, this is not a common thing. You don't see groups of these people meeting on a weekly basis to talk about how we can better collaborate, how we could better care for our community, how we can access funding that is not just for me as an individual organization, but us as a collective leaders group. So out of this, we have our steering committee, which we have many members that are participating. Those are most of our members. We have a few other folks that have been joining, but it's a very strong partnership. We really came together over the pandemic because unfortunately at that time we saw that South County was not being centered in the response in the vaccines that were coming into our community.
Next slide.
Oh, okay, I'm like, what?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
So really through Erika's leadership along with a lot of the other organizations and public health through the county, there was a lot of collaborative effort that was really done, and South County was put on the map as being a priority need. There's about 27 active partners that would meet on a weekly basis, and they really focused on housing issues, fiscal, financial resources, burial support for folks that passed away in our community, And really, there was a cross-sector of folks that were participating in this effort and that continue to participate in this effort. So next slide, please. Some of the wins of our collective work is that we were able to distribute over $4 million to local undocumented families through the disaster relief assistance that was distributed through organizations like PVHCD, Community Action Board, and others. There was over 20,000 residents that were reached in trilingual health-related public service campaign. One of the really biggest needs that we saw through the pandemic was the fact that there was a whole other population with different language needs than what we were able to support at that time. And a big shout out to Maria Elena de la Garza and Community Action Board for really stepping up, hiring folks that speak Indigenous languages to be able to translate and connect with those most in need. We have coordinated efforts around emergency food distribution, immigration services, and legal supports, and there's ongoing legal program offering around eligibility screening, benefits enrollment, and immigration services. Additionally, the eviction moratorium that predated the state's moratorium and avoided eviction for local families. So all of this work that we do, that we've been doing, has been on top of the day-to-day business, right? And the efforts to really continue this became clear that we needed to talk about sustainability and really creating a backbone for our work. So we had no funding, we had no backbone. It was really based on the collective work, but this really showed us the need to build the backbone for our collective work. And a big kudos out to the Public Health Department. Emily Chung reached out to us and said, hey, there's this CACHI grant. You guys would be perfect to apply for this grant. And so that started our efforts to do a collaborative process of grant writing to gain this money in our community, and we were awarded $400,000. So with that, I'll let Erika take it away.
And it was at this meeting where we realized that we needed to identify a structure to keep our collective work moving forward. And so we settled on and found the collective impact model, which is actually a proven effective model for collaborative efforts, all striving to ensure that we're impacting change and we're measuring change. And there's 5 conditions that are absolutely necessary for good, effective outcomes in collective impact. And that includes making sure we have a common agenda, making sure that we have shared measurement, so we can know what we're actually measuring in our collective work, making sure that the activities that we are doing, because we represent different organizations, have enforcing activities, because we want to see our organization benefiting and involved in those activities, making sure that the communication is continuous, which is like really the necessary thing for any effective relationship, frankly. And then of course, and Jasmine alluded to it, making sure we have a backbone organization that can help the collaborative move things forward. Like any of our organizations, without the administrative support, we will fall apart. And that's not any different for collective work. Next slide, please. So recognizing that we wanted to move in this direction, and with the adoption that we wanted a collective impact model for our work in the PV, in the Pajaro Valley, we responded to Emily's invitation to take a look at the CACHI grant. CACHI is actually a statewide effort that the state has invested money to create collaborations across multiple communities in the state to do exactly what we're doing here. It's the California Accountable Communities for Health Initiative. It's about mobilizing a cross-sector of partners to catapult and prioritize health and wellness across California. So we applied, we received $400,000. We have 2.5 years to spend this money. This money is specifically to support the development of our infrastructure, right? That backbone support that we recognized we needed, because we were also exhausted carrying 5 different jobs during COVID, and then it felt like that earlier this year. We went through a process of identifying who could serve as our backbone organization. There's key criteria that we adhere to that the collective impact model asks us to look for. and we settled on the city of Watsonville. And one of our realizations in that process was, wow, we really don't have a lot of organizations that we can lean on to support us in this. We got excited when we created a healthcare district for our community, because who knows, maybe down the road it ends up being here. But we knew we needed to lean on the leadership that we had built trust over the last 3 years, and the city of Watsonville stepped up beautifully for our collaboration over the last 3 years. The food bank served as a fiscal agent for this grant, so we are responsible for all the accounting that is required for that. And of course, we, in the process, developed a common agenda of what we want to move forward. Next slide, please. Before I share that agenda, here's the structure of our collaboration. This is what we proposed our structure to be. We're still fine-tuning that. We submitted this for the grant, but this is primarily the structure. We have a steering committee comprised of the organizations that you saw earlier. You'll see them again in a minute. That backbone structure is really more to be that administrative support. Really, the steering committee and the working groups are the face of the work. It's not the backbone structure. They're really there to just make our collaborative effort successful. Next slide, please. Here's the list of the steering committee. These are the founding members of our South County Triage Group. This 2.0 version of it is what I'm calling it, right? We need to move together to make change happen for the Pajaro Valley. Next slide, please. And so here are our goals. We went through a series of very intensive conversations. You can imagine we're a very passionate group. We all have great ideas about how we can improve the Pajaro Valley, but we settled on 2 priorities. And that is the advancing economic mobility in our community and improving health and wellness, right? And those are big, and we're in the process of identifying the indicators that will help us then identify strategies that can help us move the needles on those particular indicators. We were very resolute in making sure that we resource our allocations appropriately for these 2 goals. That when we start having side conversations, we're going to anchor ourselves back to how does this fit with these 2 goals, right? It already has happened, right? Where we have a wait, how does this work? How does this fit to the goals? We want to make sure that equity is at the center of everything we do, because we saw the disproportionate impact in our community during COVID. It was literally life and death. So we got to experience it very real, in a very real sense. We are going to elevate the voices that we seldomly do not bring to the table. As Tony very, said earlier, this is our community, it is them. That's what, and I really want to figure out how to engage them in the bond, because I actually think they could be a very powerful voice for that effort. We wanted it to be community-centered. We are, sometimes we talk about things from an agency perspective, and we remind each other this is about the community, right? It's not about our agencies, it's about the community. And more importantly, we agreed to hold each other accountable for the work that we want to do together, right? So it's been a beautiful process to see us get to this point. It hasn't been without its discussions, right, and tensions. But it's amazing to see that we're moving collectively to improve those 2 particular goals. Next slide. So here's where we're at. I love that we have little check boxes next to some of this, because a few months ago, we still had bullet points or squares that we needed to fulfill. We have, the city council has adopted a memorandum of understanding to serve as our backbone organization. There was a lot of work to get that agreement in place. We have identified a facilitator that is helping our group right now at this moment, so that we're not waiting for the staffing. We're moving. We recognize we needed to move. We have identified backbone training opportunities that we as a collective need to make our collective work function as we move forward. And we are working with other communities through the statewide COCHI grant to learn from communities that are further advanced than we are, although actually I think we're most advanced, just based on the conversations I've been having with the other 37 granted communities. They call us, how did you do this? How did you do that? When you have this kind of questions pop up, how did you handle that? So actually, we have a coach and a mentor, and they've said to us, you guys are way advanced. So I think it has to do with the work that we did together during COVID. We're developing and formalizing our governance structure. You saw a schematic there. We're getting to the point of really finalizing that. And now comes the exciting part. We've established our data work group. That data work group will be responsible for looking at all of our county data. And one thing we didn't say, by the way, and I wanna make sure that you as a board know, is that we had a very intentional discussion about the boundaries of our work. And through a lot of debate and analyzing, we concluded that we wanted to mirror the healthcare district boundaries. And that's important for you to know, right? It may not be that we start impacting all the communities that comprise that district because of the already established relationships that we have, but the idea is that we're imparting change in these two areas for the entire Pajaro Valley district, which we align to be the healthcare district. Work groups are being established. The data is going to be identified. We're using data share. We're leaning on data points that we know already get measured. We're not interested in becoming epidemiologists, right? We're interested in leaning on data that we know we are already collecting and making a commitment to move the needles on those. Next slide, please. And so where are we going with this with CACHI? One of the things that the grant required is that as a collective, we identify a state initiative that we felt a majority of us could participate in either learning more about or getting engaged in. And many of us were very excited to learn about the reformations that the Medi-Cal system is affording for community-based organizations, given that many of us are CEOs. And we anchored our collective learning in better understanding how our organizations can participate in the CalAIM reformations. Why? Because we believe that if our CBOs are able to avail themselves of the resources that this reformation offers, our community is going to be better for it when it comes to health and wellness, right? Because these services will then be available at constant as opposed to being grant dependent, which is what tends to happen right now with a lot of our community-based organizations. So we're in that process of creating a work group. Some of us are already in it, and we're trying to bring our CBOs along so that they better understand how they can benefit from this and in turn be a sustainable source of support for our community. We will be applying for some of the statewide funding that is available for organizations who want to build their infrastructure so that they can capitalize on this opportunity with Medi-Cal. We want to make sure our CBOs are taking advantage of these supports that the state is offering to welcome us into the network, if you will. In terms of our sustainability for our collaborative, we recognize $400,000 is but a launching pad for us. We have developed a fiscal team, a work group that we actually had a meeting today where we started to talk about how do we envision this collaborative going beyond the 2.5 years we have funding for. So we're exploring things like membership fees. We're exploring things like how do we incorporate collaborative work in the grants that we all individually apply for. So more on that, but just know that even though we're launching the specifics, we're already thinking about this has to be a long-term collaborative effort. We often say to each other that it's not about Erica being a CEO of the food bank or Jasmine or Steve. It's about how do we make sure that this collaborative effort is here for the long run, because we know that change is going to take years. And so it's really not, we're trying to make it not be structurally about the person, it's about the organizations being involved. Next slide. So our collective ask for you today, because anytime we present it, we always ask ourselves, how can we engage the group we're speaking to. And the first is to support what we are doing. We actually see potential for alignment with, you know, your strategic efforts down the road, even with educating the community around the bond and what does this mean to them. I can see opportunities there. If there are opportunities for there to be that synergy between our two goals and what the healthcare district is thinking about doing, bringing us into that conversation. Because we believe that by working together, we're going to get there faster and probably more effectively. So encouraging you to think about the fact that we're not going anywhere, we're going to be here and we're going to figure it out. We have been figuring it out without any resources. So now we have resources. Why would we fail? And then, of course, join us in supporting our efforts in any way possible. I'm sure that as we finalize our plan, and we're happy to come back and give you details once we finalize that plan with components of what we are aiming to impact, to join us. And maybe there are strategies that you as a healthcare district can impart to help us move the needles in some of those areas. So that concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, we're happy to take any question now, but if you have any questions, we've offered our email in the very last slide, so you can send us an email, or if you have an idea, if you come across a grant opportunity, right? We tend to be pretty responsive to those things. So we're happy to entertain any questions you may have or comments.
Kudos, appreciation. I don't know, this is a weird night out here. This is way too much good news. I mean, this is amazing. And I can appreciate it. Probably didn't start amazing. If you go back, the whole reason you're here is COVID happened and inequities in delivery care happened. And you guys stood up and said, we deserve better. So I appreciate the origins of how it started, and it was a collaborative effort. You opened it, Jeff, so perfectly. This is an amazing community. We do amazing things that we don't do enough to celebrate, acknowledge. So I'm grateful for what you've done to get here. I didn't know you received that grant. I'm not shocked, but I'm impressed. Just well done. I think we collectively agree with everything you're trying to achieve, and it is in real nice alignment with our strategic plan and goals of our district.
Stephen, you have a question?
I had a comment and a question, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming here tonight, for coming and presenting to this group and for the work that you're doing. It's really impressive, and I'm super excited to start being a part of it. I know I've been to one meeting, and I'm gonna start coming every Wednesday, and I'm really excited to have those opportunities to collaborate. So on the two sort of main focus areas, right? So economic mobility and health and wellness. I'm also looking forward to the conversation about how we measure our success. And I'm sure you've started that conversation. I'm really looking forward to being a part of that conversation, because particularly on the health and wellness side, the hospital can lend a lot of help to how we measure that, how we measure success in health and wellness within the healthcare district, as well as work that I've done before with the Alliance. They've got a ton of health and wellness of, the population that they serve is very much overlapping with the population that we're talking about serving. So we have some great ways that we might be able to measure success in those areas. And so I'm just looking forward to it. You don't have to answer how we're doing it, but I'm just looking forward to working on that one.
The collective impact model is really about, right now, we know we have a lot of services available for our community, but what happens right now is that the arrows are pointing in different directions, and we all are striving for the same thing, but we're not aligning them, right? So there isn't a understanding that if our goal is to decrease diabetes rates among children by X%, right? Once we have clarity of that, as an example, I'm not saying that that's what we pay, I'm just throwing that as an example, that then all of the different organizations who are working with this population on that now have clarity of purpose, and we can begin to measure impact, and we can even do sub-measurements of specific initiatives, right? That get folded as a way of making that bigger impact, right? So that's an idea of how we are planning the data, right? We're not interested in inventing something that is not currently being measured, because we just don't have the resources for that. We just don't have it, right? So one of the key criteria for us will be, is it measurable? And is it being measured? If those two things can get an affirmative answer, then it could be an opportunity for us.
Also through these efforts, I just want to share that it's really created an opportunity to break down the silos amongst the various organizations. And I mean, one of the reasons I left the county after over 20+ years is because I saw what the South County Triage Group was doing. And it did not sit well with me as a safety net clinic that we were sent home to do telehealth with our clients who are most vulnerable, and our least paid community-based organizations were still out there on the front lines doing the work. And that just was something that I had no intention of coming into this role, but I do believe as one door closes, another door opens. And I feel like I'm incredibly in the right place at the right time. But one of my big things, and this might just be because I am an LCSW, a clinician, is it's about the relationship, right? And so for me, when we have these PV leader meetings, and there are tensions at times, right? But it's continuing to work through that and continuing to see how we can support, uplift, and leverage the resources that we have together. And one thing that I've been really passionate about, along with Monica Morales and some of our other behavioral health leaders, is really coming together and have dialogues around the funding that is coming into our community and the opportunities to apply for various grants, and not just individually chasing that money as an organization, but who's really best poised to apply for the funding and actually deliver the service, and not duplicating efforts or duplicating the work. There's so much work out there. There's really no need for us to be competing against each other. The need is that we are in alignment and that we're leveraging the work that we do together. And I think that for better or worse, we continue to push that message of like, we're in this together, the relationship matters, and we need people to continue to show up and build that trust.
And I'll just conclude with something Jasmine said. This is rare. To get a community to operate the way we have been operating, and to get government partners to build a relationship with community-based organizations in such a way where we're on a phone call basis, it's rare. It's rare. It's not, when I share our story with other ACH communities, they're like, but how? But how? Because normally there's tension between government and CBOs because usually there's contracts involved, right? That's usually what creates the tension. And sure, we still do that. We still are negotiating with the county on contracts. But when it comes to this collective work, it's a whole different space that we operate within. And I think COVID, frankly, that was the gift. That was the gift of COVID. The positive side of COVID was that it almost catapulted us to have to build this relationship for the sake of making sure our community was well. So we want to harness that. And that's the whole purpose of this continuation, is let's not let that die and revert back to the way we were operating. Let's figure out how do we take what we've been doing together and then do more for our community.
And I think the one last thing that I'll say is, I can't help this, but I want to give kudos to our Health Services Agency Director, Monica Morales, because it really shows what happens when we invest in our youth, in our community, and see them grow up and come back to serve our community. We have never had a health services director that has sat in a weekly meeting with CBOs, and Monica's at that meeting every week. And she's looking out for Watsonville. Of course, that's not her only mandate, but this is her home, and she has the experience of having gone through the hospitals here, the schools here. And so to have somebody with that special eye on one of the populations in our county that has oftentimes been overlooked and not centered is a game changer. And so really it is about the current leadership that we have across the board. And we really have an opportunity to do some amazing work collectively. So thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Just a couple of comments I've had.
Oh.
Yeah, the opportunity to sit in on one of your guys' meetings as a member of Community Bridges, and the work you guys are doing is like really inspiring. Eric, I was in the work group with you as well too, and that was, I mean, I love being in a room where people are smarter than me and can just answer a question that I have, and I feel like I have just opened up a whole new way of thinking about whether it be data or whether it be like collective action. And then just building on the conversation of the bond measure and what avenues this opens up for our community. It's by no mistake that the boundaries of your guys' collective work is of the healthcare district, and it's by no mistake that our healthcare district is in the bounds of the Pajaro Valley Unified School District. Because when I think about economic mobility, when I think about health and wellness, I think about a hospital having access to health and wellness and health services, and then about having access to education. So just the potential of something like this, and like you said, for it to go on in perpetuity even after I'm gone, hopefully my kids are still in Watsonville if they choose to be. I'm just super excited about this work you guys are doing, and it's the silos is like, it's such a great way of breaking it down. It's almost like we're all the different organizations working in health and in community services and social safety nets, like they're all horses with blinders on, like racing next to one another. They don't even notice that they're running the same race. And this process is like taking those blinders off and realizing, oh, we're all going to the same goal. Maybe we should work together towards that goal. And so this your guys' work is awesome. So yeah, excited to continue to be a part of it, both in my day job and then also do this as well too. It's great.
Beautiful, beautiful. More to come.
Thank you. Final item is the co-tenancy agreement between the Pajaro Valley. So we talked about this at the previous meeting, and we agreed we just need to have a motion now to accept that resolution regarding the co-tenancy agreement between the hospital district and the corporation.
I'll thank staff for the staff report and the resolution. Really good best practice. It mirrors what was done with our hospital corporation items. So I will gladly move approval of our co-tenancy agreement.
Okay, so we second that.
I'll second. Director Nunez?
Aye.
Director Fox? Yes. Director Pinto?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Chair Friel?
Yes. Okay, then, no further action coming before the board, we return. Thank you.
Can I make just one? I'm sorry. The universe works in such weird ways. I just got a text message today, just a few moments ago, sending me an article that Roland Redley has passed away. And he's a major contributor in our community, a major philanthropist. I'm sure for those of you who work in Santa Cruz or have worked in Santa Cruz, you'll see his name up on the homeless shelter in downtown Santa Cruz. And I know that he didn't get the public recognition for this, but he was one of the biggest, if not I believe June, the biggest individual donor in trying to save this hospital. He donated $1 million to this hospital, the biggest individual donor of anyone. And so universe works in really mysterious ways. There's just so many people that have helped us to get to this point, and I'm really happy about where we're at, where we're going. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, and then let's just speak it into the public record. So thanks for taking care of that.
Maybe we ought to adjourn in memory of Roland.
Yes.
In appreciation of his support of our hospital district and ongoing endeavors.
That's it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.